All right, so the last video we talked about the five most important fish of 2020. This video is going to closely relate and resemble it, but we're going to specifically talk about the five best baits, most productive baits that I had in 2020. I'll sprinkle in some pictures, but this video might be kind of boring because it's just going to be my ugly mug sitting here talking to you. If you want, I'll put on my life jacket and we can wear it and pretend like we're fishing. But it's cold outside. It's probably snowing at this point. I think we're supposed to get like 14 inches of snow this week. It's going to be stupid. So I'm going to be doing a lot of this over the next couple of days and weeks, trying to catch up on content that I promised that I was going to produce. So let's just jump right into it. Let me get my list, handy dandy list. All right, so number five, the best bait that I used this year, which I talked about in the last video, is this hardcore square bill. Um, Red, orange belly, chewed up. Great bait. Man, I don't know what it is about this bait. Even the bluegill pattern that I have of this same square bill, fantastic. Did really well. A fish on it. I caught that 7 pounder on it. Um, was a really good bait for me in the spring. I didn't use it much over the summer. Summertime, when I'm fishing the river, at least, I switch over to a very shallow crankbait that I learned from my good friend Jeff Little. Taught me about that shallow cranking deal in the river. It's on fire, but not with that bait. That bait right there though was killer for me in the springtime. Caught a lot of good fish, and I caught that 22-inch largemouth on it. It went 7 pounds. Craw patterns and bluegill patterns were the most productive for me, but I think I had a couple other in shad pattern that I caught a few fish on, but crawfish and bluegill stood out. Uh, Next was the Kitech tungsten finesse jig, and I really don't. I don't. I simplify it. I use two colors, and that's it. I use a black and I use a green pumpkin. Um, Gerald Swindle said, if they won't hit the green one, throw the brown one. If they won't hit the brown one, throw the black one. If they won't hit that, try the green one again. There's no reason to get crazy with it. I mean, some guys, oh, you got to throw PB and J, you got to throw this, you got to throw. If they're gonna hit a jig, they're probably gonna hit a jig, no matter what the color is. They're just keying in on that profile. Maybe the color is important in some more pressured lakes where I fish. It's really not. So is the green pumpkin version of that Kitech tungsten finesse jig. It's got a real thin wire guard, got a thin wire hook. Throw it on a spinning rod, and I like to use the Z-Man TRD craw as a trailer on there. Um, this bait and the black one really did well for me, both in the river and lakes this year. Caught some good fish on both different types of bodies of water, all kinds of bodies of water. Everywhere I took it to, it worked. And I traveled all over the country this year. So that was a really important bait. And I actually had to kind of force myself to fish that because I do not like to fish slow. I don't like to fish the bottom. I prefer when the fish are in the you know upper third of the water column, um, moving baits and so on and so forth. A jig is not really my deal, but that particular jig I'm going to be using a lot more because it catches a ton of fish. So that was the fourth best bait of the year, and kind of in line with it, my third best bait of the year was this deal right here. Everybody knows what that is. That is a big TRD. I caught a ton of fish on this bait this year. This is yoga pants. everybody loves yoga pants, specifically big girls. Big girls love them some yoga pants. I'm not lying. They can't get mad at me. Said that bait, and actually, let me grab that back. There's one thing I want to talk about. This hook is an owner blockhead. I think this one might be a quarter, or yeah, I think it's a quarter ounce. Um, that hook is how I fish all of my Ned rigs. Some guys will throw the open hooks. I don't prefer to. I prefer to have that EWG. That way it gets snagged up a lot less. You pull it, to expose it a little bit. You don't have to go too much because it's a Lastech, but that really keeps it from getting snagged up. And it's easy, just comes right down. So this is a man. It wouldn't matter where I was fishing. It wouldn't matter what time of day they were eating that this year. The only reason why it's not the best is because I didn't catch a lot of huge fish on it. It doesn't mean that it won't catch huge fish. I just didn't catch a lot of huge fish on it. When I was up in the upper Mississippi River up in Wisconsin, that bait, and then whenever that bait got tore up, I actually took it off and I wacky rigged it on like a 1/8 ounce weighted wacky rig hook and ended up catching them with it wacky rigged. I don't think there's a application that you can't use that big TRD. I didn't use the big TRD as a chatterbait trailer this year. Don't tell nobody that, but um, it's a really good all around versatile bait. Had a lot of success on it. Again, I don't try to get crazy with it. I might throw 5 colors of that bait. I have yoga pants, which is basically black, green pumpkin, yeah, green pumpkin, and then I like to have a black and blue, and then I like that copper truce color. Copper truce is really good. It's got that chartreuse belly and kind of like a almost like a. Well, I'll talk about the next one. The Drew's Craw top. Drew's Craw is a great pattern. Um, really good color patterns on that. It's got like some brown and green pumpkin and red flake and whatnot. Those are really the only 5 colors I throw in that bait. Um, if I can't find one of those colors, then I'll try to get the next closest thing, but that's really it. So, number 2 bait this year, the old Whopper Popper. The old 110 River to Sea bone colored Whopper Popper. Key things with this bait, change them out. It doesn't cost that much money, and I know what happens when you don't change them out. Some guys will say, "Oh, I catch them without changing out hooks." Okay, good for you. I don't. I do not have as much success on that bait as I do whenever I change out the hooks. Um, I looked, and most of my hooks that I have that I've changed out are either the Mustad, um, 2X short shank, size 1 and size 2 in the triple grips. And then for the smaller ones, like the 75s and 90s, I throw the owner stinger trebles in, I think this is size 4, yeah. So those are the 2 types of hooks that I put on those baits. Um, every time I get a Whopper Plopper, the first thing I do is change out the hooks. It's pointless not to because you will land more fish. Sometimes they come up and swipe at it and they miss it. I promise you, you are not landing those fish whenever they swipe at it and miss it on those stock hooks. And if you tell me that you are, I want to see video proof because those stock hooks, after you catch 1 or 2 fish on them, they are not as sticky as they are out of the package. So, um, change out your hooks. That's the biggest thing. If they're hitting a 110, they'll probably hit a 130. If they're not hitting a 110, try a 75. If they're not hitting a 75, they're probably not hitting top water. You can maybe try something a little, less noisy, and that might work. But, more than likely, if they're not hitting a plopper, at least where I'm fishing at in the river, if they're not hitting a plopper, they're probably not hitting top water. Um, so yeah, that was the second best. I caught that PB smallmouth on it, that 21-inch smallmouth, that old brute, and I've caught a ton of other good fish on that bait. Um, I did have to go away from the bone color a little bit this year because the river was super clear most of the year, super clear, super shallow. And what I ended up doing was actually switching to a monkey butt pattern, which it doesn't matter what the top looks like, it just needs to have a clear belly. And whenever I couldn't get bit on the bone, I was getting bit on the uh, the monkey butt or clear belly. So last, certainly not least, talked about it in the last video. This deal right here, the Z-Man Jackhammer chatterbait. This one is beat up, missing an eye. I probably should take a black dot and fill that in. Um, this has been the deal. And anybody that tells you that they don't catch fish on a jackhammer, boy, y'all should reevaluate your life because that is some of the funnest ways to catch. One of the funnest ways to catch fish on. Man, they hammer it. A lot of fish on that bait this year. And sometimes, I mean, part of that's probably because I force feed it to them a lot. But I caught some giants on that thing this year, and I caught some very important fish according to this check back here on that this year. And just all around, it was just a really good versatile bait. I think three of my top five most important fish this year came on a chatterbait of some variation, of some color variation. Um, yeah, I mean it's a great bait. I love it. I don't think there's another bait that stands close to it. Not sponsored by Z-Man. Wish that I was, but I'm not. There is just not another bait that does the same thing as that jackhammer. So those are my five best baits. Probably going to release the five most important fish and five best bait videos almost simultaneous. Not even sure how much editing I'm going to do with this video because I'm just standing here talking to you. I might throw a couple pictures in somewhere. I don't know. Probably not because I'm probably going to get lazy with it and usually going to have to deal with my ugly face. So, thanks for watching. Stay tuned again for 2021. Going to be a lot of videos, hopefully. Hopefully, there's a lot of really good fish catches. Got a really busy schedule. And I'm probably going to make that the next video that I produce on my YouTube channel. I'm going to talk about my 2021 schedule, some goals that I have, and ultimately maybe just recap a little bit of 2020. Not going to go into huge depth because I've talked about it a lot in my social media posts as well as my YouTube videos that I started putting out about midway through the year. So not going to bore you guys with the you know regurgitating the details of it. You guys can go back and check it out. But we're going to talk a little bit about 2020, and then we're going to talk about the season goals and schedule for 2021. So stay tuned, and we'll see y'all later.